Are you ready to stop riding the emotional elevator of life? Are you ready to learn how to elevate your emotions that keep you psychologically traumatized or in an addictive behavior? You are in the right place. Here is your host, Sandee Byrd, trauma, addiction, life, and spiritual coach of the Emotional Elevator Show.
Well, welcome everyone. I, of course, am Sandee Byrd. Yeah, that's me. And this is Emotional Elevator on Inspired Choices Network. It's so much fun being part of this group because sometimes we get into conversations, then we forget. Oh my gosh, we got to start the show. And sometimes the conversations are very enlightful, and it's great to be part of a group, especially Inspired Choices Network, that we do have fun. We can laugh, we can joke, we can be very serious, we can be held accountable, but to have the equal of that is so remarkable. So if you are looking to have your own podcast. I have a bunch of guests coming on the next couple of months on my podcast because they're trying to understand if that's what they want to do because they're finding their voice in life. But if you ever do want to have a podcast or you want to talk about producing, because this really isn't a podcast, I am live right now. I am actually live. So this is technically a show, a TV show, because I'm streaming live, streaming. Yes, I said that right. I thought I said screaming. Streaming live, and I could be screaming live across the world. Wow. Wow, that makes me kind of nervous. But anyway, I am streaming live. So this technically is not a podcast right now, but as of tomorrow, it will be considered a podcast. But if you are looking to have your voice amplified out here in the world and you feel like you can inspire others, then come over here, have a conversation with Christine at Inspired Choices Network. Get that show going. I'm going to be bringing on some guests that will be lightening us on their emotional elevator through life, through challenges or through their entrepreneurship, their businesses, being women entrepreneurs, coaches, just many different topics I'm going to have on here in the next couple of months. But of course, like I said, I am Sandee Byrd. I am the host here of Emotional Elevator. And would like, and if you're listening to me, whether you know me or you just happen to meet me possibly today, and that's kind of lucky that this is what the show is about. But if you are listening to me and you are like, you know what? I've been thinking about this topic. Send it to me. Maybe it'll be a podcast. I mean, maybe it'll be a show one day, that topic. Because it's funny how every single time I'm talking with a group of people and then I've already set up what my show was going to be about, and it ends up being about what we're talking about. And today was a big part of this show tonight, which was already put in place about 2 weeks ago when I started talking about ADHD, neurodivergence, social anxiety, all of that. This show just happened to fall. I did not know I'd be going to a corporate summit today, but I'm going to get into that. But who is Sandee Byrd? What I am is I am a complex coach. I'm going to say that now. I am a complex coach. That was a word that was used today, and the complex was not a bad term. It was a very, I am very engaged with wanting to help individuals on their individual level of healing. And I'm going to discuss the 3 programs I have coming out. I'm having kind of a launch next month when I come back from being out of town. But I'm also a corporate wellness facilitator. And that's why this topic tonight is so important to have the discussion because being a corporate wellness facilitator, I do some things a little different. And I'm going to kind of go into some of that tonight. But on a personal level, if you're listening to me and you're like, you know what, I've been looking for a coach, and something you've said in one of your shows really it speaks to me. You can reach out to me, of course, at Sandee with those 2 E's, the Bird with the BYRD coach at gmail.com. We can have a connection conversation. Let's connect. see if because I will be very 100% honest with you. If there is not a true connection with us, I'm going to probably offer suggestions for other coaches because I am not one of those coaches that I'm just going to work with you because I know I can help you. Because if there is not going to be a connection, there's no use working together. And I know that in my own personal life. And that's why the coaches that I work with are ones that I have a personal connection, that I feel a connection with. That's one of the reasons why I'm here on Inspired Choices Network, is because I feel a strong connection with the other show host here, part of this network. But I'm going to go into the show soon. But next month, starting soon, I'm evolving again. The butterfly is becoming another butterfly, a different butterfly. And I am coming up with 3 new programs. One of them is Unleash Your Authentic Self, Thriving Through Forgiveness, and Find Your Empowerment Within. All 3 of these programs are different, but have some similarities in it. They all are going to work on that doubt, and that is going to be a topic coming up on one of my shows, coming up very soon. But they all dive into a form of doubt. Do we doubt? Do we really know who we authentically are? Do we doubt because we have a lot of trauma that we haven't let go or forgiven somebody for? Or do we doubt setting up those healthy boundaries, cutting off those relationships that are just drowning us and not propelling us in life? So those 3 programs will be launching next month. And like I've told people out there working with the corporate facilitator, wellness facilitator that I am as well, I hand out my business cards and I tell them, you're going to go on my website, but you're going to see it totally different in about a month. I've evolved into a bigger, better coach and bigger, better facilitator, that it's time for me to also evolve in my programs. But tonight's show is all about corporate. And when are they going to get? I'm scrolling up a little bit so I can read my show notes. When is corporate workplace going to get a reset? And this was a conversation I had today. It's embracing diversity and neurodivergence. And neurodivergence is that ADHD, that ADD, that high spectrum autism. When is the workplace going to be all inclusive? When is the workplace going to embrace the needs of those navigating neurodivergence, social anxiety, identity crisis, transgender, LGBTQ challenges? Employee turnover is becoming the norm because the workplace is not creating environments that are inclusive. It is time for a workplace to reset its values and beliefs to be more inclusive and diverse. In this episode, I, the host, Sandee Byrd, will dive into insight in innovative strategies for creating more inclusive and supportive work environments. Sandee will address the unique struggles faced by employees from all walks of life. Sandee will uncover solutions that not only improve well-being, but also drive workplace productivity and innovation. It's time for a reset, one where everyone is seen, heard, and valued. See, all of these are kind of wrapped into one. And today, a lot of the workplaces, because I was at, and I'm going to say I was at a summit, a corporate summit, and a couple of people that I met today might be listening or watching, whatever. The summit, I talked, not we, well, we did have conversations, so there is a we, but I talked a lot about how workplaces are not inclusive anymore. They also are not grabbing people's attention anymore. And being a corporate wellness facilitator, I bring in different techniques that are different. But it's also, how do we embrace this inclusivity? What do we do to embrace it? Because there is a lot of different walks of life, walks of life. There are no dogs, animals, whatever. But there are many different people walking into workplaces that don't feel that they're being accepted, that they're not being appreciated, that they're not being valued. Me, even as a white female, have gone from job to job when I don't feel valued, when I don't feel I'm being seen anymore, when I'm not being challenged. And so just imagine if I am your atypical person, but I also have ADHD, just think about those that are not what we classify, and I'm using that with the quotations, as atypical, someone who is part of the LGBTQ community, someone who is going through identity crisis or changing their identity, transgender, or someone who is suffering from social anxiety. Why are we trying to make them, and I've talked about this even as our kids, why are we trying to make people fit in these boxes? Because this world has evolved. And today I was talking with companies that are 20, 30 years old, and they're still using the same training techniques. They're still using the same things when they have a retreat. And as we all know, just being in the world today, our phones have become part of our identity. Our social media accounts are our identities. How much time do we spend actually focusing on something right in front of us instead of our phone or social media? How many AI things out there can write things for us, can actually know what we're thinking? And you go to Google and all of a sudden it's popping up and looking it up, and you're like, where did that come from? So just think, we are evolving on a whole different level when it comes to our learning techniques, our training techniques. Now put in a person who is struggling with who their identity is, or who has a label that they've had put on them, and they're already struggling. And then you're going to put them in the workforce and say, this is how we train, this is how we've been training for 30 years, and we just do it this way. When are companies going to evolve into the world it is today? And when are companies going to really embrace inclusivity and diversity? They talk about it. I've been at a lot of these events recently with corporate, but then I see, yeah, we do a great job talking about it. Let's promote it. Let's say we do this, that, and the other. And they bring in all these diverse people, companies that maybe help them manufacture, maybe help them ship. But what about within their own environment? That's where I see the struggles. Yes, we're a very inclusive, diverse company, and that's why we're holding all these summits, and we're out here and we're asking for this, our vendors and our suppliers and our banks and everything to be diverse and inclusive, because we want to work with all of them so we can show we're diverse and inclusive. But when it comes to their own employees, they're not. They're not showing up as they're showing out into the world. And I'm seeing that a lot when I'm going into these companies, and I'm doing, because mainly when I go in, I sometimes am working with the leaders and showing them these new tools that I teach them. They're getting it. And I'm like, when are you going to trickle this down? This is not, I should not be here doing it just for the leaders, for you to see how creative this is and how productive this is and how engaging this is. This needs to go down further. And that's what was so amazing today, because I had technology companies coming to me and we had conversations. I would like for you to come. Maybe we can sit down, have a meeting, and talk about how we can increase our productivity, how we can engage with our customers and our staff more. Where are we missing the buck? And I'm like, it depends on who you're trying to engage with, because we all have evolved. And as people come into the workforce that have these labels or these issues, when are we going to engage with them? When are we going to get down on their level and say, what is it you need from me? Because the problem is when they don't feel that they're getting seen or heard, what are they doing? They're going to the next company. Because how many people stay with the company when they're not being seen and heard? Unless they're in a very toxic environment and they're being traumatized at work, are they staying there? But that's why the days of being at a job for 30 years, shoot, my husband was with his job for 50 some years, for 50 years. That's no longer. That's not the norm. And why is it not the norm? Because so many people out there are going into jobs and not feeling seen, heard, valued. They're not having people come down to ask them, what can we do to change? What can we do to evolve in the company? And that is what the biggest step that corporate America needs to make. So it is time already for this first break. And I feel like I've just been talking all day, so I'm stumbling now. I am Sandee Byrd. I know who I am. I am the host here at Emotional Elevator, and I am on Inspired Choices Network. And like I always say, if you're listening to me on any other platform, like and subscribe. Or if you are listening to me on a live and you're like, you know what, I want to ask her a question, come to Inspired Choices Network. Just come there. You can even put in inspiredchoicesnetwork.com chat room and come in the chat room. There's no, I'm never going to call you out. That was a big thing someone said. I listened to you, but I'm afraid why would I mention your name? I might just say, Sarah asked a question. Or one of my listeners, one of my viewers asked a question. So here's the question. Because I want to engage in these conversations a lot more than just speaking to you. How about us having a conversation? So I am Sandee Byrd. I am the host here on Emotional Elevator on the Inspired Choices Network. You can always reach out to me at sandy@emotionalelevator.com or Sandee with those two E's, Byrd, BYRD, coach@gmail.com. But we are going to go to that first break, and thank you for joining me tonight.
Are you living a life of psychological trauma or suffering from an addiction? Are you ready to learn new techniques to elevate your emotions without sustaining or obtaining them from substances that are not good for your mind or body? Then continue to tune into Emotional Elevator with trauma, addiction, life, and spiritual coach, Sandee Byrd, where you will learn techniques to elevate your emotions that don't require a magic pill, food, or impulsive behavior. Listen to Emotional Elevator with Sandee Byrd, Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Mountain, 4 p.m. Pacific, on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
Are you a subject matter expert? Are you here to share your expertise with an audience waiting to hear from you in only the way you can deliver? Are you ready to have your voice amplified across the airwaves? Inspired Choices Network has a global radio platform streaming to millions of people across the world. Professionally produced and supported by an accomplished team every step of the way, you can broadcast from anywhere in the world, knowing your voice matters, and we ensure it is delivered with ease and efficiency. Eager to hear your message, the world awaits. Contact us today to become an Inspired Choices Network radio host. Email become a host at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com.
This is Emotional Elevator with Sandee Byrd. To participate in this program, join the live studio audience in our chat room at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com. You can also send an email to sandy@emotionalelevator.com. Now, back to the program.
Well, welcome back. I've been talking about reset at the workplace and how we need to become more inclusive and we need to become more diverse. And I don't mean diverse in the workplace. We need to be more engaging with the diversity and the inclusivity. Yeah, I stumble on that in the workplace. And how more employees these days just walk away because they don't see the value. And if someone is dealing with social anxiety, having that opportunity to hear them out, opportunity to be heard, opportunity to be seen, opportunity to be valued. People who have social anxiety, ADHD, ADD, and autism, high functioning, sometimes need a little bit different stimulation. And listening to workplaces say, no, you can't listen to that, or you can't do that, or you can't have your phone on your desk. They're not realizing or asking the questions, why is there a need to have the music on? Because I can tell you, when I am working in my office, there's meditation music and someone has come in and gone, "Oh my gosh, how are you able to focus? Like, don't you just want to like melt in your chair?" No, because it's grounding me at the same moment. Or sometimes I've got on some good dance music and and I'm going along because it's also keeping me focused. Something with having that distraction so I can't hear if I'm in my home office. I can't hear like if the dog's running around or if someone comes in. Sometimes my kids pop in and they know if my office door's shut, but that way I'm not distracted. Or if there's a dog across the street barking or something, I sometimes need the music. I don't necessarily need, I want the music as a way to tune out. And when I'm working with clients and that's what they need, and they don't feel like they're getting that, and they don't feel they can speak up, that's where the struggle becomes, where they'd rather help me find another job because they don't feel like they're powerful enough to walk into their boss's office. These open door policies that I preached when I was in management, open door policy, you can talk to me about anything and it won't go anywhere, is not the same as it used to be. And I would love to get feedback from someone who is a manager out there and say, I don't think that's true. But we all sit there and say, well, the company's got to run, so they better be here and they better be on their best behavior and all this kind of stuff. That's not the same thing anymore. It's not. And when you're bringing in a lot more, I like to call it transversity, transgender, gay, LGBTQ, that maybe identify differently, we need to start changing our offices, and these companies need to start engaging with that because they should always have a non-gender restroom. I think everywhere should have that. And a lot of retail stores these days have family restrooms. Perfect. Companies should have non-gender restrooms for employees to feel comfortable. Can you imagine if you worked a job and you were there for 8 hours and you never felt comfortable relieving yourself? How uncomfortable would that make you? Some people are dealing with that in the workplace, or they don't feel like they're accepted because they do have social anxiety and they don't feel like they add value. Even some people without labels don't see value in companies anymore and don't see that training. And this was a big conversation I had today, and this is not wrapped around these people, is we have become such a social AI people, even at my age, that the norm of training is not the same. The norm of having teamwork building is not the same. Having 50 people from the diversity crew to go into a lecture hall and have a public speaker come speak to them. A lot of them have their phones underneath the table. You probably couldn't hear me, had the phones underneath their table, are looking around. When is this going to end? I don't know even what they're talking about. I would rather be at my desk working on this because we're not engaging. We are a society now that wants engagement. And then there's people who don't feel like they can have engagement. And it's learning that, because we all aren't learning on the same pace, the same level anymore. And I remember when I first started writing training manuals for businesses, I was a corporate trainer for a couple of restaurants, and I wrote training manuals. And when I wrote them differently. I would write them and they would always throw it back at me saying, "No, we just want one training manual. Why do you got to like make three?" Because I was already engaging with the visual, the kinesthetic, I can never pronounce that one, and the auditory learner, and someone who's got to be hands on. Like, we all don't learn the same whatsoever. And sometimes by giving someone a tool to use to learn is better. And that's why I sat, I didn't sit, we were standing. We were today talking, and they asked me, maybe we should have a phone call. We want you to come out here and really work with us on creating a program that can engage, where it goes to the phone and they can do something while someone is asking a question about teamwork in a room. And I'm like, that would be great. I'd love to help you do that. And having that conversation and being able to say, okay, now that you're talking about how to engage your employees, is your workplace diverse? What are you doing to make sure they're included? And being able to have that conversation was even powerful in and of itself. Well, we're very inclusive and diverse. Well, what do you mean by that? Well, I mean, we hire people from all different backgrounds. But do you hire people not knowing who they started and who they are now? Well, what do you mean, Sandy? What are you talking about? Transgender. How do you handle transgender in the workplace? I mean, never thought about it. Why aren't you thinking about it? Well, because you're going to wait for it to come about. You're going to wait for someone to show up and, oh, I'm transgender and I don't know what to do. Because some transgenders already are fighting the battle with family and everything, and to go to work and have to fight a battle, it's not it's not fair to them. And think about someone who is gay, and you have people who want to make jokes. Well, you can't really, you know make them. Yes, you can. And I know a lot of companies, they definitely, HR departments and employee advocate departments have become more inclusive to other people's feelings and how they feel. But when are you going to engage with those feelings? When are you going to really have these hardcore conversations? Not, do you feel valued at work? Do you like your boss? These questionnaires that come about, do you feel that your company is inclusive and diverse? Well, if you look at surface level, yeah, I do. I think it is. But do you feel valued if you are part of the minority of inclusive or diverse? Like, asking more of those questions, being engaged with your employees, being out there with your employees. And like I said, these open door policies are not open door, or I'm hearing that they're not as much open door. And that's what the conversations were today, is building on that for so many people. And do you know how, talking with a couple of them today, do you know how to handle somebody with social anxiety? Well, we're working on that. Or, yeah, I do. Well, how many leaders do you have working for you? 56. What kind of leaders? Where do they rank in the tier, in the pyramid? Oh, well, do you have meetings about working with social anxiety? Do you have meetings about engaging with people who are ADHD, ADD, high spectrum autism? Do you have meetings? And what kind of meetings do you have? Are they just someone talking about it? Or is it engaging with, bringing someone in that is willing to have that conversation? Because a lot of times you're dealing with what you see as the problems. I've been there. I know. I've been a leader and I've been in these conversations and I'm like, so who here is transgender? Nobody. Well, where are we getting these data? Where are we getting these facts? Where are we getting this? What where's this coming from? Well, it was handed down from, you know, Tom Jones. He's, our executive director. And yeah, but where did he get this from? Where did this come from? Well, he was at a training thing. Well, was it a training thing with a transgender person or was it just a training thing? Oh, well, that's what I'm talking about. We as companies and corporations need to make sure that we are having those conversations, including the population that you want to embrace, engage with. Everyone these days sometimes walk around on eggshells. I don't want to offend. I don't want to exclude. But by doing that, you're excluding already. You're excluding already. Oh my goodness, it's time for a second break. And the next part of the show, I'm going to go in techniques and things that I do at corporate retreats. I'm going to kind of sell myself a little bit on my corporate wellness facilitation and what you might be able to do if you're in a workplace and you're engaged and you don't know how to approach those conversations. So you're listening to Sandee Byrd on Emotional Elevator on the Inspired Choices Network. And if you want to reach out with me and have a connection call, you can reach out to me at Sandee with those two E's, Byrd, BYRD, coach@gmail.com. Like I said, you can go to my website, sandeebyrd.com, and see how it will be relaunched. And like I said, I have 3 programs about to be launched. And you can see the transition within myself as I evolve into more of a person I want to be. So again, you're listening to Sandee Byrd on Emotional Elevator on the Inspired Choices Network. So thank you for listening, and let's get to that break.
Are you living a life of psychological trauma or suffering from an addiction? Are you ready to learn new techniques to elevate your emotions without sustaining or obtaining them from substances that are not good for your mind or body? Then continue to tune into Emotional Elevator with trauma, addiction, life, and spiritual coach, Sandee Byrd, where you will learn techniques to elevate your emotions that don't require a magic pill, food, or impulsive behavior. Listen to Emotional Elevator with Sandee Byrd, Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Mountain, 4 p.m. Pacific, on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
How wonderful would it be to carry your favorite Inspired Choices Network host with you throughout your day? Well, now you can. Inspired Choices Network now has its very own mobile app. Our free app offers live streaming shows, along with thousands of podcasts and TV episodes. Our shows cover a wide variety of topics. Whether you're waking up with us, carrying us through the day, and taking us to bed with you, we're always here for you to enjoy. We're easy to find. Just search for Inspired Choices Network in the Apple App Store or Google Play Store.
This is Emotional Elevator with Sandee Byrd. To participate in this program, join the live studio audience in our chat room at InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. You can also send an email to sandy@emotionalelevator.com. Now, back to the program.
Sorry, welcome back. I got a little bit of an itch right here on my throat, but you're listening to me. I am Sandee Byrd on Emotional Elevator, and you're listening to Sandee Byrd on Emotional Elevator on the Inspired Choices Network. I knew who I was. I knew the name of my show. and I know the network I'm on. But like I said, we need to engage with our employees a lot more these days. Employees are struggling with feeling valued. Employees are struggling with feeling seen, feeling heard, being seen as inclusive. So some of the highlights for the first half an hour, the last half an hour. First half an hour, employees want to be seen, heard, and valued. The open door policy is not the same anymore. It's not. All companies should have non-gender restrooms or employees can feel accepted and valued. Diversity and conclusion conversations can be very powerful. Ask questions, engage, and get involved with your employees and diversity. And that is the biggest topic, as well as just engaging. And what do I do as a corporate wellness facilitator? And how do I go into these corporations and facilitate? What I do is I do a technique. It's called Lego Serious Play, where it does engage with you to build a Lego. It's just a simple Lego kit. It's got a person in there, just a normal one size fits all Lego person. But I also bring extras. So if you want to change it up, you can. And what it does is it gets you to get out of your shell and, engage into your mind to do a build. So if I were to ask, and I bring extra Legos, if I were to ask a question, what does inclusive and diversity mean to you? You get to build what it means to you. How do you feel when you feel valued in this company? And you can build the build. And it's engaging and asking the questions in the company and getting them to feel inspired, the people to feel inspired enough to do a build and speak about it. And some of them do a build and don't want to speak about it, but they can go back and continue to look at it and give themselves a voice, give themselves a chance, give themselves the opportunity to feel valued, to feel worthy within the company. Because turnover rates are are definitely getting higher and higher because less employees feel valued at work. They feel seen, they feel heard. Because a lot of people, when they suffer with things, with the topics I'm talking about, neurodivergence, which is the ADHD, the ADD, the high spectrum autism, special high IQs, they are not feel like they're being seen. And that when they go into train, they're not taking into account that maybe I train differently. Well, this is what we've been doing for X amount of years. Yeah, but it would help me if I train this way. Well, that's not the way we do it. And they're not getting that value. They're not having an input. And that's why this is so important. And a lot of people, when they start feeling that way, just walk away. A lot of companies think it has to do with the benefits. Oh, we offer these great benefits. I've worked with many companies that have offered very good benefits, very good incentives. But my incentive is to feel valued, to feel welcomed. I don't care sometimes if I'm recognized. I just want to have a thank you. Thank you for today. Just having that said to me means the world. If someone is transgender and they have nowhere to go, think how you would feel if you're a female and there's only male bathrooms, or if you're a male and there's only female bathrooms. How would that make you feel in the society? Or if you're gay and there's a company function and you're kind of looked at when you bring your significant other and they are the same sex as you. because we are an environment that is evolving. Things are changing and shaking in this world, but sometimes companies, they're not. And how do you think employees feel when there's like maybe a holiday party, to be inclusive, a holiday party, but don't feel that they can go because they're afraid they're going to be judged by who their sexual partner is? Just think about that. If you run a business or if you are in a leadership role, someone who has social anxiety and you want to tell them, we want you to get up there and speak to people and not take an account that they don't have that skill set. We all have that skill set, but do we feel valued enough to do that? And what can you do as a leader? It's the same thing as I talked about last week as being a parent. Have those conversations. What can I do to help you? And if you don't know the answer, continue to ask the questions to get the answer. What can I do to help you? Because a lot of times we get frustrated as managers and bosses and we're just, I'm done with them. How do you think that person feels? That's still a person. That's still an employee. Think how they feel. How would you feel if that was you and you feel like no one's valuing you? So those are a lot of the techniques that I have taken into the corporate world, is to make sure I'm teaching them coaching, how to coach their employees. How do you coach your employees? Do you get down on their level and understand who they are? Do you ask the questions? And if you want to ask a question when it comes to sexuality or anything like that, tread lightly and ask if it's okay to ask the question. But when it comes down to that, that is a slippery slope. But sometimes if you get down to their level, they're willing to open up, but it's how you approach and how you acknowledge them and how you see them and how you make them feel valued. That means more than asking a question. Taking in account that they are too a person that wants to be seen and heard and felt value when it comes to organizations. And the techniques, myself being a corporate wellness facilitator, that I take back or I teach them to take back to the offices, is just grounding yourself, doing breathing. If you're in the middle of a boardroom and you want everyone grounded, just kind of do visualization. Say, okay, before we start this meeting, we're just going to sit here for a moment. And I do this before I start a meeting. I just want everyone to kind of take a couple of deep breaths. You don't have to close your eyes. You can keep your eyes open. I want you to sigh it out through your mouth. And I teach them that. And I tell them, you can do little things where rub your fingers together for a minute. Feel your fingers. Feel the ridges of your fingers. And just have them take a moment to settle their brain, to be able to focus on what's at hand. Because in these work environments, as they continue to get diverse, we need to be inclusive. We need to be embracive. We need to be engaging. We need to stop excluding. Because most people come to work and already feel excluded in their life, and then they come into a job, and it might be a job that they longed for and love, but then they don't feel included at work. So what do? They walk away. And then they're out there saying, I don't feel like I bring value. But they do. So always think about that in your work environment. Even if you're just a mainstream employee, everybody has a purpose in life and everybody has power within themselves no matter what they do. You have power and you have the power to help others no matter what your job is. We all have a job in life that we perform. It's how we help others perform their jobs, how we take a step back and say, okay, what can I do to help them too? Because the one thing I can tell you in my career life is that I did include everyone, no matter what. I want to get to know everyone because I don't know what knowledge they have, regardless of who they are, regardless of what limitations they might say they have. Getting to know them, getting on their level again, and understanding what it is that they face, what it is that they're challenged with, and engage with them. Give them the power of their voice to speak up for themselves. Make them feel included. Make them feel valued. Oh my gosh, it's already time for another break. Time is flying. This conversation is just kind of a deep conversation, but it's a conversation that needs to be had. And it's a conversation that is a slippery slope because you need to be inclusive, but you also need to be engaging, but you don't want to be demeaning at the same time. And you don't want to step over into someone's boundary. So I, of course, am the host here on Emotional Elevator. I am Sandee Byrd. You're listening to me on Inspired Choices Network. And if you do want to reach out to me, if anything I said, or you want to get deeper in this, because I can only go but so deep on this show, if you want to reach out to me at Sandee with 2 E's, Byrd, BYRD, coach@gmail.com, or at Sandee@emotionalelevator.com. Because I want to go into corporations and be able to make everyone feel valued, heard, and engaged with. And I have techniques from Lego Series Play and laughter yoga that I do for companies to break down those barriers that hold us from getting engaged as a team. Sometimes teams need to learn how to engage and embrace everyone, no matter who they are, what they are, how they are. So we are going to go to that break, and thank you for joining me tonight. I am Sandee Byrd on Emotional Elevator on the Inspired Choices Network.
Are you living a life of psychological trauma or suffering from an addiction? Are you ready to learn new techniques to elevate your emotions without sustaining or obtaining them from substances that are not good for your mind or body? Then continue to tune into Emotional Elevator with trauma, addiction, life, and spiritual coach, Sandee Byrd, where you will learn techniques to elevate your emotions that don't require a magic pill, food, or impulsive behavior. Listen to Emotional Elevator with Sandee Byrd, Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Mountain, 4 p.m. Pacific, on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. This is Emotional Elevator with Sandee Byrd. To participate in this program, join the live studio audience in our chat room at InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. You can also send an email to Sandee@emotionalelevator.com. Now, back to the program.
Well, welcome back. I am Sandee Byrd on Emotional Elevator on Inspired Choices Network, and tonight has been a conversation all about resetting the workplace and being inclusive and not necessarily diverse, because a lot of companies are diverse. And I've been to a few summits recently to sell my corporate wellness facilitating for corporate retreats or just getting teamwork and building morale in a business. And some of the things I talk about as a coach, or some of the topics I talk about as a coach, not things, topics, is that how we can engage when we might not understand. It's just asking the questions, becoming like your own little coach within yourself as a leader, or even as a regular just employee. If you are the corporate assistant and you want to understand, just asking questions. What can I do to better assist you? What would help me help you to understand what is being asked of you? What techniques might we be able to incorporate that will better assist you? What is it that you need from me or from the company? Having those questions and being open for the honesty and giving them the space and the time to answer, and making them feel that you are open and receiving of the information. Because there's nothing worse right now than feeling isolated at work, feeling unappreciated at your job, feeling undervalued. And it is, as we evolve just in general, and we don't even have to be neurodivergent. We don't have to deal with social anxiety. We don't have to be gay. We don't have to be transgender. Just nobody's normal. Just being me as myself, as we evolve, I have to evolve and accept too the evolution. Because what I might have done years ago when I was a trainer, a corporate trainer, and wrote training manuals is not the same for today. Same thing as me being a public speaker and wanting to speak to these corporations, and we would get up and do like a fun exercise. That doesn't work anymore. Or maybe it does. But I was the one who would get up there and move around. And everyone's like, she's just moving around so much. Because I wanted to continue to have that engagement, have attention. But it's getting down and asking the questions. Asking, what can I do to make you feel included, to make you feel valued? Starting the conversation with, what do you do to make yourself feel confident at work, relaxed at work? If they listen to music, ask them, does it help you? Instead of shutting it down. So it is almost time for my show to end tonight. And let me tell you, next month I'm launching a new website, new programs, a new me. But in the meantime, next week's show is anxiety, and the following week's show will be doubt, because they are taped shows, unfortunately, because I am going to be gone. I will be unplugged. So thank you for joining me tonight on Emotional Elevator on Inspired Choices Network. And continue to subscribe and like. And if this topic, if you're an employee and this topic was a great one for your leader, share it with them. But again, thank you. And for the next 2 weeks, yes, my show is taped. Understanding Anxiety and Doubt. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Emotional Elevator Show. Sandee returns Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Mountain, 4 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. Until then, start elevating your emotions and stop riding the emotional elevator that is stopping you from living the life you deserve.